All right, let's step into the courtroom for a minute. Today, we're going to deconstruct a really critical Supreme Court case that hinges on the power of a single word. A word that, believe it or not, completely reshaped the rights of an accused person here in India.
And this quote right here, this is the very soul of the case we're diving into. It's a powerful reminder that the law should be a shield, protecting people from being unfairly dragged through the legal mud.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with how the whole thing got started, get right to the core legal question at the center of it all, hear the arguments from both sides of the courtroom, and then unpack the court's final decision and, most importantly, why it still matters so much today. So where does a story like this even start? Well, you might be surprised to hear it wasn't in a courtroom. It all began with a police raid that spiraled into a major fight over press freedom and personal reputation. And things moved fast. I mean, look at this timeline. It's basically a 24-hour whirlwind. On March 18th, you have a raid on a senior IPS officer, Hemant Nimbalkar. The very same day, the Lokayukta, that's the state's anti-corruption agency, holds a press conference. And then, bam, the next morning, the Sakal newspaper runs with the story, and that's the final straw that leads Nimbalkar to file a criminal complaint. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Nimbalkar wasn't just upset because the paper reported on the raid. No, it was this stuff. He claimed these articles were straight-up defamation under the Indian Penal Code. You've got headlines screaming about smuggling, and an editorial with the title, "Police Dog Millionaire." This is what took it from just journalism to an accusation of criminal defamation. And that, right there, leads us straight to the main event, the procedural battlefield that this whole thing was fought on, which is a tiny but incredibly powerful part of our law. Section 202 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, or CrPC. So what in the world is Section 202? Think of it like a gatekeeper for the criminal justice system. It gives a magistrate the power to hit pause on a complaint, conduct a quick inquiry, and decide, hey, is there actually enough here to make this person show up in court? It's designed to stop bogus or malicious cases right in their tracks. And boom, here it is. This slide shows you the absolute game changer. Before 2005, the law said a magistrate may do this inquiry. It was their choice. But an amendment in 2005 changed that one little word. For anyone accused who lives outside the court's local area, the word became shall. And that switch from may to shall turned a simple choice into a mandatory must-do duty. So really, the entire legal battle, all the way up to the Supreme Court, boiled down to this one single question. How mandatory is mandatory? Does shall really mean shall, every single time with no exceptions? That's what the court had to decide. All right, let's head over to the petitioner's corner. Abhijit Pawar's entire defense hinges on a simple fact of geography. He lived in Pune, which was outside the local jurisdiction of the magistrate in Kolhapur, who summoned him. So, Pawar's lawyers came in with a four-pronged attack. First, and most importantly, they argued there was a massive procedural mistake. The magistrate completely skipped that mandatory Section 202 inquiry. Second, they argued you can't be held criminally liable just because of your job title. That's not how it works. Third, they pointed to the Press Act for protection. And finally, they leaned on the constitutional right to free speech, saying they were just reporting on a matter of public interest. Okay, so that's the defense. Now let's cross the courtroom aisle and see how Hemant Nimbalkar's side fired back at all of this. And Nimbalkar's team had an answer for everything. Pawar's side says, we were just reporting. They shoot back, no way. You published brand new, libelous stuff that went way beyond the official statement. They claim freedom of speech. The response is, that right isn't unlimited. It doesn't give you a license to destroy someone's reputation. And on that crucial procedural point, they argued that the magistrate looking at the articles was a sufficient inquiry. Okay, so you've got strong, compelling arguments on both sides. The stage is set. How did the Supreme Court actually untangle this procedural mess and come to a final decision? The court was super methodical about this. First, they looked at why the law was changed in 2005 and found the whole point was to protect people living far away from being harassed. Second, they ruled that shall means mandatory, period, not a suggestion. Third, they defined inquiry as more than just glancing at a file. It means actually applying your mind. So finally, putting it all together, they concluded the magistrate just plain failed to do what the law required. And if you want one line to sum up the court's thinking, this is it. This is just a fantastic quote. They're saying a magistrate's job isn't to be a post office, just stamping and forwarding every complaint that comes in. They have to be a judicial filter. So the final order? Crystal clear. The appeals from the Pawars were allowed. The summoning orders were quashed, basically thrown out. But, and this is a big but, the case wasn't over. It was remanded, which means it was sent right back to the original magistrate with a very clear instruction. Do it again, and this time, do the mandatory Section 202 inquiry first.
Okay, so why are we still talking about this case today? What's the big deal, the lasting legacy here, that makes it a landmark case?
Well, it really boils down to these four massive principles. It's cemented into law. It made the Section 202 inquiry absolutely mandatory for people living outside the court's area. This acts as a powerful shield against harassment. It also helps stop forum shopping, when someone files a case in a faraway court just to make life difficult for the other person. And it reinforces that judges must use their judgment, not just act like rubber stamps.
And remember that year, 2016. Because that's when this all became binding precedent. Ever since, the Abhijit Pawar case has been used as the standard, strengthening the fairness of our criminal procedures across the entire country.
And that's what this case really leaves us with, right? This fundamental balancing act. How does our justice system make sure that people with genuine grievances get their day in court, while at the same time protecting everyone from being harassed by a flawed process? It's a huge question, and this landmark ruling provides a really powerful part of the answer.